Welcome to FUT Weekly.
Ben comes up trumps in the weekend league.
Our marquee matchups misfiring.
Have we spotted the sweatiest ever FUT Champions qualification team?
Can you really get Jensen for buttons?
As always, we talk through the team of the week, informed impressions, as well as our Dynamite Discards.
And seems familiar to listeners who faced one to watch in Bolo, this pod comes to you in a week where a right winger named Donald has stunned the opposition. Welcome to week 8 of FUT Weekly.
Just like every week, let's kick off with a quick look back at our weekend leagues. It ended fairly well for both of us, but Ben, yours was a bit of a bumpy ride.
Yeah, first 5 games, no wins, and I just thought, what is going on? I'm literally aiming for bronze 3. So I switched it up, put some new teams together, which I'll talk about later, and I played my first game, won that, which meant I got gold 2. And so I had to win 4 games in a row to reach gold 1. Went into that second of 5 games, knowing that it would probably just help me out in the longer term for the monthly rewards. But yeah, I ended up winning that game, won the second game, and then knew that 2 wins would get me to gold 1. The Holy Land, the pressure really built. I was really struggling. By the final game, it would be the highest finish I'd made, and I was proper nervous going into it. Luckily, I settled my nerves, going 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes, and in the end, I saw it through. A bit tense. He ended up coming back, but I held on for gold 1, and in the rewards, got Kante and Felipe Coutinho. So I'm very pleased with that. A good weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I remember texting you on Sunday to find out how it had gone, and kind of halfway through match of the day, and you still had the 5 to play, and it was all looking a bit tense.
Yeah, I mean, very fortunately they extended it because I did, now it goes on until 7 a.m. Monday morning. So I did end up playing till after 1 to make sure I got the 5 games in. Yeah. I mean, I thought it would just be a case of, I've already lost a game. Obviously, if I won 1 game, I was on gold 2, which I was happy with.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to have to play all 4, basically.
Yeah.
I thought I'd, head off to bed, and it would have been nice to play the rest of the games because of monthly rewards, but I wasn't too concerned. Yeah, it couldn't have gone better, really. How did yours go?
Yeah, I played a whole load on Friday, probably 15 matches, something like that, and I knew I was only going to get a handful in over the rest of the weekend, and in the end I got up to 29 games played. A bit like Ben, I was just, unlike Ben's target of gold 1, my target was gold 3 because I wanted to guarantee qualification for next week's weekend league, and I managed to win, I think, like 4 on the spin on Sunday afternoon when I just had an hour that I was able to commit to the game. And that took me up from silver 1 to gold 3, and I managed to nab it at the last minute. So it ended on 18 wins from 29 games. And we just calculated the win percentages. That put me on a win percentage of 62.1% and Ben on 62.5%. So somehow we've ended up on incredibly similar win rates in spite of having played a fairly significant number of games.
Not only was it that they're very similar percentages, actually, if you'd won 1 more or one less, that's the closest they can be with that number of games played.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess it's just one of those slightly funny things, and I mean, we've always been pretty similar in ability.
But yeah, that was kind of summarised overall what happened. But in terms of the detail, I mean, I've really found certain things were helping me a lot this week. Let's bear in mind that this isn't the week where the opposition is meant to be worse.
Yeah, so this weekend. That should kick in this weekend, where anyone who got gold this weekend or above is automatically qualified. So the qualification tournaments this week should be much easier to win.
And we're not I'm not playing the tournament, so I'm not going to be there to beat someone who's maybe not normally able to get in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely will have an effect. And quite a nice break from playing so competitively.
Yeah.
Having the week to not play.
Yeah, I've basically not played this week at all, actually. Other than I've just done FUT Champs, and it's quite a nice.
It's quite funny because there's a few games that I've played. I played a couple of divisions games. I was just sitting there like, what am I actually going to do? Because it was just such a come down after that, and I just ended up playing like a silver to get a team game with my silver team. Yeah, in division, just for jokes. It just was a draw, but the guy wasn't very good. Should have won. And then the other games I haven't done very well on at all. I think just the focus just isn't there, and I need the kind of break to get me back into it again.
And we had a couple of games earlier with a couple of my teams because Ben wanted to try them out, and those actually went fairly well.
Yeah, that's true actually.
But yeah, midweek play has been it is probably the sense of you're saving everything for FUT Champions, that's when it counts.
Yeah,
and in the
just
week
kind of a bit jaded, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of worn out. I guess particularly if you played the full 40 last weekend.
But if you're someone out there who hasn't managed to qualify, then it's definitely still worth giving those tournaments a go, especially now. And if you haven't qualified that particular weekend, then maybe spend the weekend playing divisions with the teams you're going to use for the knockout tournaments. And it's quite interesting how they've decided to do it. As I was suggesting last week, they've gone for just 2 tournaments a week, which means that especially if the tournament requirements are a little bit awkward, it just makes it that much easier to
you're not having to build a squad that's got quite specific nation or league or player or club requirements for just 24 hours. It's hardly worth it because you're putting half an hour into putting the squad together at least.
And then you're playing in the evening and you've only got like a few hours to play with it. The other thing is that in terms of the fact that there's almost always a tournament a week, which is no requirement. So now that's like guaranteed 2 days, which is good.
So one last thing on the topic of FUT Champions. We've had a question from a listener, Steve at NY Jester, has asked if bronze benching works this year, which I think is sort of relevant.
Yeah, that's pretty relevant. And I think ultimately it does have an effect. And if you see any top players who are hitting the 40 wins and things, they tend to have bronze benches.
If they tweet out their teams, you tend to see they'll have at least 5 bronze players and maybe a couple of players to sub on. High rated.
And then if they've hidden their bench, you can sometimes tell because they've got like legends, but their team overall is like 8,
so the average
4.5 star.
The average overall of the players in the team is sort of 86, but it's apparently an 81 rated team or something.
Yeah.
So they are definitely doing it, and maybe it might be superstition, but might also just trust them to know that it does make a difference.
Because I think I've noticed that generally I get matched up with teams of similar rating. If you look in the corner at the star rating, is generally kind of similar. I don't get matched up against too many kind of crazy teams.
Yeah.
And by the same token, I don't get matched up with teams too far below the quality of my team.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. One area where this definitely does make a difference, though not necessarily in terms of who you're matched up against, is in terms of meeting tournament requirements. So, for instance, last weekend I qualified for FUT Champions through the 3.5 star team rating tournament, but I had a full gold starting 11. I just had a bronze bench because that led the team overall rating. So it is useful in terms of that. In terms of general matchmaking,
I think it's still going to help you. But
it's going to help you.
We're wondering whether...
But it's probably quite a marginal difference.
It's going to make that much difference. It's worth remembering that you should probably have a couple of subs on the bench because players could get tired, especially if you're going into extra time. I think it's a huge impact having a couple of subs to bring on in extra time.
Yeah, I think the benefit of being able to bring on good players and maybe having a choice of who you bring on is going to outweigh maybe the slightly easier teams you get matched up against if you have a bronze bench.
And then we don't know this since the patch, but some of you may remember back in week 1, my goalkeeper was sent off. So this is something that may be worth considering. I tend to make sure I have a goalkeeper on the bench. I have 2 squads I rotate, so that's quite easy. And I'm not so bothered about the bronze benching. But it hasn't happened since, and it may have been patched, but I'm kind of always slightly aware of it because I got screwed by the person.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely did happen that one time in week 1, but that's the only time either of us have ever known it happen. So that's possibly a very unlikely or very unusual thing that EA let slip through quality testing for this year's FIFA and got quietly patched.
Yeah.
So we're not sure.
And the other thing is that I sort of don't feel that it's worth it in terms of the amount you end up spending on fitness cards, the amount that you kind of have to then focus on one team. I like to have 2 teams on the go. And I think there's an argument that really the overall of a player of players isn't that significant. Often teams you play with high-rated teams, that opponent is just compensating for the fact their ability isn't so great. And by the same token, people who have some of the lower-rated players, they can be the worst to play against. People like Musa, etc. Give me a Van Basten any day.
Yeah, definitely. I think player overall doesn't necessarily equate to how effective they are in the game. So I think it does make a small difference, but we certainly don't do it regularly.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've got another question from @Lambo Matt, who is Metz Lamborn from the Footstock, who do a lot of great trading stuff. Check them out on YouTube. And he's asked if the hype around trading for marquee matchup squad build challenges has died already. kind of making the point that people are much more aware of the big matches that are coming out, and so kind of people got caught out by it in the first couple of weeks that EA did the marquee matchup squad build challenges, and so there was huge profit to be made for people that got ahead of the curve. But now it's almost impossible to do that sufficiently. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't really seem to be practical anymore.
Yeah, reports on Twitter suggest, and yeah, having observed as well, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, in the first couple of weeks, there was a lot of excitement around SBCs in general. People were very hyped, essentially, around these new types of SBCs, and people also weren't really sure what to expect. So there was huge potential to really cash in. I know a lot of people made a crazy amount of money, but basically the FIFA community as a whole has
wisened up to it, I think.
Yeah, wisened up to it. They've got a hold of their excitement and are no longer happy to pay ridiculous money for what should be discard rated golds just because their club are playing their major rivals this weekend. And I mean, in terms of completing SBCs, to get the packs from that, it's maybe more profitable now because you don't need to get way ahead of the curve to complete them because the price fixing is less intense.
Yep.
But I think, yeah, we probably have seen the peak in terms of
kind of a saturation point, I suppose.
Yeah, the ability to make crazy money from the marquee matchups.
I think also the other thing is that you get two things happening in kind of simultaneously. People realise that there's suddenly not as much money to be made. So many people are trying to get those players ahead of time, and then you've got the fact that people like we were saying earlier, we haven't really completed many SBC of the marquee matchup SBCs just because some of them are so heavily price fixed.
Yeah.
So only the ones that we can complete cheaply we actually do. So you kind of got two things happening there which are causing it not to be so profitable, which is kind of par for the course, I suppose, as the year goes on with different things like that. Hype builds. I mean, FIFA is based around hype builds.
Yeah, the market is determined massively by hype.
As you can probably imagine, having interacted with a large swathe of the FIFA community over the last 5 years, there are lots of great people out there, but many people are just driven by the kind of shiny cards and things. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But on the other hand, of course, we've got Player of the Month, which is hugely hype kind of focused because the players are generally, obviously, Barclays Premier League players. So whether it's Sterling or Son, these players are players who are going to be valuable or have a perceived value to players.
Yeah,
who play
and
the
I
game.
think this month, or the player for October, the public vote is currently massively in favour of Hazard, but that only represents 10% of the decision. The rest is made by a panel of pros and journalists to do with the Premier League. So I think Joe Allen should get it. But I know a lot of people have been investing both ways, and a huge number of people have been investing in Belgian players, Lille players, basically everything to do with Eden Hazard.
I mean, I bought some Lille players just in case. There's no guarantee that it's him. Could also be Joe Allen, as we were saying. But I just thought that seeing as Lille players were actually really quite cheap when I was having a look a week or so ago, I thought I'd do that. But of course, there is a question over whether there is going to be an SBC at all.
Yeah, I think if Joe Allen is Player of the Month, they will stick to what has worked for Sterling and Son, which is squad build challenges. If it's Eden Hazard, that presents a bit of a challenge for EA because that would be by far the highest rated player that you can get permanently from a squad build challenge so far. I mean, I guess there was the Ultimate Scream Payet, or the position change Payet, which, as we decided, or not as we decided, for us, we decided was probably not worth it. This Eden Hazard, his regular card is 200k, 220k at time of recording. But if his Player of the Month card was sort of 90 rated because he'd already had an 89 inform, then EA would have to make the investment required for an SBC huge, kind of talking 500k maybe worth.
Because otherwise everyone's getting him.
Yeah, so I wonder, I feel like they've been trying to steadily build up the scale of the squad build challenges they've been doing. I don't know if they'd want to go that big this early in the game. I mean, this early, we're a couple of months in, but my gut feeling is they might avoid it.
If you look at someone like Horgan, who came out a few weeks ago, he kind of like snuck out under the radar, but
the Irish player,
Irish player, we tweeted about him about a week ago when he came out, and he's really good actually. 4-star, plays for Dundalk, and was a god at St Paddy's Day tournaments over the last few years. Actually, was a bronze previously, but he looks a really good card and would probably be one of the better silvers in the game.
And then they ended up just putting him in packs, didn't they? So basically, what EA might do is make Player of the Month Hazard, if he appeared, have him as a packable card rather than an SBC card. Alternatives to that are either have a hugely difficult to complete squad build challenge, or maybe even do it for a loan item. But I feel like they've been fairly consistent in how it's worked so far, so they probably would want to avoid that.
But of course, the other thing is that talking about possibility of it being a very difficult to complete one, all that does is line the pockets of people who are price fixing players. It doesn't give anything back to EA. So what I'd possibly think might happen is that maybe the current team of the week that's in packs, or maybe Movember items are required, because then people would be encouraged to open packs. Because if you maybe the other requirements aren't so crazy, but if you pack one of those players, well, you might as well go out there and buy a few packs, because if you pack one of those players, you're getting Hazard.
Yeah, if it drastically increases the value of the current team of the week, then that puts a short-term pressure on buying packs, which is what EA love.
Yeah, I'm just
not that we want to suggest EA a cash grabby or anything like that.
No, we've never done that in the past. But that's what if I was EA's kind of director trying to get them their money, that's probably what I'd do. But they don't always go in for that.
Yeah, so I think this year they have made it easier to get packs and stuff and get value in your club without putting money into the game. But I think, they probably wouldn't want to miss out on the chance of such an attractive player being in packs, or requiring pack investment of some sort from the community. Yeah, I mean, we just spent however long talking about Eden Hazard as if he were definitely going to be Player of the Month. It's not actually going to be announced until the 18th, and I think we both have a bit of a feeling it might be more likely to be Joe Allen.
Yeah, I think because of this kind of board, panel that comes up with the who it's going to be. I imagine it's like a British-based board, and they'll probably be keen to give it Joe Allen.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's had sort of the month of his life
exactly.
As a player. Kind of, it's the best he's ever played. He's never really scored many goals before, and he's got 3 or whatever this month. I think there's a bit more excitement around Joe Allen.
So I think the other reason that would help is because they can continue doing that SBC thing.
Not that EA have input in it in the decision, but it would smooth things out for sure.
Yeah. And I think if that was the case, then it wouldn't be in packs, and it would be as we saw before. And so in that case, it may be worth picking up some Welsh players, possibly silver players.
Yeah,
I'd say any silver players which fill positions which you can't fill with gold players would be ideal.
Yeah.
And as he's obviously kind of high-profile Welsh national team player, I think for that reason it is very likely that there'll be something around Welsh players.
Yeah, though I suppose one thing to bear in mind is could be a bit late to the party. I imagine a lot of these players will be preemptively price fixed already, because I've seen people sort of since halfway through October, late October, talking about this on social media and trying to make plans and predict who's going to get it. And I think Joe Allen has been in the running throughout that, so I'm sure I'd be careful investing on him at this stage, because there's a chance he gets done.
You say that, but I'm not saying go out and spend thousands of coins on one player, but maybe pick up some, a variety of players at a not ridiculous price, and then see whether you can make anything of it when it comes out, because you never know, and it's worth spreading your hedging your bets if you like, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. To go with another cliche there. You never know what might work out, and it's worth a go. And a technique that I think has been quite effective so far is investing in players that are going to be out of packs. I mean, obviously, informs is one thing. We might discuss that at some point. But this is non-informed players. Players like we did it with Ricardo Pereira when he was informed, with a few others. And recently, as I think I mentioned last week, I bought sort of 30 Bellarabi. I don't feel like Bellarabis is the right plural.
Bellarabi.
Bellarabi. So I got 30 of them at 1.5 to 2k, and they're already up at sort of above 3k. So what happened at times. So
this is with the Movember items.
This is because, of course, he's in packs for Movember. So the price of that Movember item won't go down to the price of.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
we've seen the Movember items fall quite a lot. I think they've fallen slowly because people are anticipating them being needed for an SBC at some point.
Yeah, and actually, you've picked up some.
I've just picked up a handful of gold cards. I got at about 10k because I thought it could be useful to have them just in case they do, even if they jump a few k, or if it just saves me buying them in a mad rush when an SBC does come out. But yeah, so the Bella RB Movember card won't fall below 10k minimum, and probably a bit more because it is an 84 rated special card. So yeah, you're looking at almost certainly making a fair bit of money if you sell off in the second half of the month.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that they might go up to. He might be about 5k by the time Movember reaches its conclusion, really, and that would bring me in sort of net 150k. So that'd be really good.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's all kind of very speculative. You never quite know what's going to work and what isn't. Like, it's just worth a go.
Yeah, I think that is something just to bear in mind. If I don't know if we'll see any other kind of Movember style promotion, because this is quite unusual for special cards to be in packs for a month. But if we see anything else like this, then very early on, try and pick up a good number of any useful players that are included. Because I mean, the Movember cards, they're quite lacking in cards that people use normally. But Bella RB is definitely one.
Definitely.
And I think you hit the sweet spot there in terms of initial value of player compared to how useful they are.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, there's a few other right mid options. So
in the Bundesliga, yeah.
So let's move on to. We're going to talk briefly about the player of the year, Jensen.
Yeah. So having spoken a bit about squad build challenges, only makes sense to talk about Jensen. Josh Green at JoshGreeny98 on Twitter asked us if we could think of any good squads to put him in, and we are thinking. I had a little bit of a fiddle around yesterday on sort of concept squads and looking on Foothead, and I've come up with a couple of possibilities, but nothing I'm completely happy with yet, and I've not actually played with him because I saw the squad build challenge had gone up last night, and I just did it very quickly, and for about 13k, I mean maybe slightly more, actually more like 15k, just with a whole load of non-rare bronzes from the Tippeligaen, 3 Danish players from the Bundesliga, and 1 random inform, and the only expensive card remotely was the inform. This is an SBC that could have been ripe for price fixing, but I think there are just so many non-rare bronze Norwegian players in the Tippeligaen.
Must have been quite clever from EA, I reckon.
Maybe it was quite well picked.
They might have worked it out nicely so that it couldn't be price fixed too easily.
Basically, the only players that have gone up significantly in value are Danish players in the Norwegian league, because they satisfy both the requirements for the SBC. So, and there are very few of them. So those cards have gone up to a K or 2k, but even there, outside of I think the non-inform Jensen, which has become quite an expensive card, we've not seen much price fixing around this SBC.
Although his silver card has gone up astronomically.
His inform,
his
silver inform is up at sort of 70k now.
Yeah, and it was only sort of 30 or 40.
There are only 2 on the market when I looked yesterday.
And actually, if you look at their stats, they're really, really. I mean, the silver inform 6 rating is lower, but the stats are only a few less on each individual thing.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about bronze benching earlier, I think, and how the overall of the player doesn't necessarily indicate their quality. I think in terms of card stats, the difference between the silver inform at 74 and the gold player of the year at 80 is 1 pace, 3 shooting, 3 passing, 1 physical, which is going to be very minimal in game, I suspect. Which is kind of nice because it doesn't completely devalue the silver inform.
Although that silver will always be valuable because it's silver rather than a gold, I guess.
Exactly.
If there's going to ever be any more silver tournaments.
Yeah.
Or maybe a silver champions for champions, that'd be quite interesting.
That would really throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah, that would. I think it'd be quite fun. Obviously, say that having
with your
Screamo Pyro in my team and having just picked up the Inform Silver Perez last week.
Mexican right back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the team I was looking at was maybe some kind of 4-3-1-2 with Eriksson at cam, Inform Braithwaite up top, possibly the silver striker in the Bundesliga who plays for RB Leipzig, Poulsen, who's another Danish player. He's, I think, 6'3". He's got 4-star skills. He's got he just looks like a kind of mini Ibra, but he also has 88 pace. The one thing that lets him down is his shooting, and I think that can probably be like remedied at least a bit with the chemistry style.
Yeah.
So he's just a card to think about.
But all these players are a little bit pricey because people, I think, are building squads with him in.
I think I certainly wouldn't have thought of making a Danish squad before this.
No.
But though, to be fair, I did have Ericsson and Informed Braithwaite linked in my FUT Champions squad. So I have used some Danish players. But outside of that,
And in fact, you're going to talk about Braithwaite from Informed Impressions, aren't you?
So, yeah. So look forward to that, guys. But yeah, it is a difficult one trying to make a team that looks properly competitive. There's a silver centre mid called Delaney, who's another Danish player. So basically, I didn't give up on hybriding. I thought a starting point would be just make the best Danish squad possible. And so I made a 4-3-1-2 because they didn't have any particularly good-looking wingers. And you could have a midfield of Jensen, this guy Delaney, and Vass, who plays in La Liga, which would be quite a sort of box-to-boxy, high-energy midfield, and with the right chem styles, I think could work quite well. And then there's Akore, the centre-back, who plays in the Danish league, who looks really, really nice, 79 pace and 83 physical. Thank you very much. And there's Schmeichel in goal. One possible place where you might want to use a non-Danish player would be right back, where there's the Norwegian Svensson, who plays for the same club as Jensen, who looks like quite a solid card, 83 pace, 81 physical.
Svensson-Jensen pairing.
Yeah, Svensson-Jensen pairing. And I think there's a left back in La Liga whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. He's 69 rated and he's got 4-star skills and he's Danish. So, I mean, there's an alright Danish squad you could make. Alternatively, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what team to play, but I think you can use players like Braithwaite or Vass or Ericsson to link into quite useful leagues.
Yeah.
And if you use just 2 other Danish players and 1 player from that Jensen gets a strong link to.
There's a decent left back and right back at his club, aren't there? Yeah.
Decent left back and right back at his club. You can kind of box him in there and then build out the squad how you want from there. So I think there are options out there.
And I think, you might sort of tweet a few.
Yeah, we'll tweet out a couple of possibilities, and I'm probably, again, as I say, I've not used him yet, but over the next day or 2, I might try and use him. And who knows, if he's phenomenally good, he might make it into my FUT Champ squad. But
yeah, and actually,
And just before we take a quick break, it's just time for our forum post of the week, which Ben is bringing us in episode 8, and it's an interesting one to say the least.
Yeah, this is a guy who, fair enough to him, he's just qualified for the Weekend League for the first time, but we were quite fascinated by the team he put out. His name's Sprigo. Definitely correct pronunciation there. Sprigo. And he's pretty excited because he just qualified, posted up that he qualified, and the team that he was playing is quite a sight to behold. He's playing a 5-3-2. He's got Vardy and Sturridge up front, both with Hunter, as well as Dembele, Kante, and Chan across the 3 in midfield. And they've all got kind of defensive boosting chemistry styles on.
Sentinel on Chan and Dembele.
And then Powerhouse on Kante. And then the defence, Luke Shaw, Chris Smalling, of course, Bailey, Koscielny, and Kyle Walker. And they all have Shadow on. So the combined pace of that back 5, I mean, the average must...
Everyone above 90, probably, with the Shadow boost.
And then he's
also... an average of 94 or something stupid like that.
And, I mean, he's also got Jack Butland in goal, but he's just a low
We all know Jack Butland is secretly got legend stats if you've ever played against him.
And he admits that he abused the game, and he said, he's been playing attractive football up till the mid divisions, and he's just decided he's had enough, and he's going to have to win. But yeah, there's a lot of surprise. Surprise, I suppose it's unsurprising, but it's kind of slightly surprising seeing someone post a team like that on the forums, being like, "Oh yeah, check out my team." But I think he was kind of expecting this reaction. Yeah,
it's a questionable shout. He's almost inviting people to have a bit of a go at him for being a sweaty cunt. But
and he also says that he set his speed on 90 and is passing to 60, and then put stay back on pretty much everyone.
So it's pretty much a just going all out for the counter attack, trying to get the strikers in behind on goal.
Well, actually, he does have overlap on his wing backs. Actually,
Okay. We'll give him a little bit of credit.
but then other people bring up that they actually think the formation can be quite attacking if you play it in the right
Set it
way.
up the right way. Okay.
And you do have 5 forward players if you include the centre mids and the wing backs. If they get forward as well, then you could almost find yourself short just having 3 at the back. But
Yeah.
It's an interesting formation, one that I haven't tried.
Yeah, I did try it for 2 games in FUT Champions this past weekend because I'd seen a couple of people on the forum saying it was a fairly effective formation this year, and I was looking to get a second team together, which I still haven't quite done. I've not found a team I really like, and I really struggled with it actually. I felt it was just nowhere near dynamic enough going forward.
I can really
It's
imagine
quite
that.
one-dimensional.
Not many options. And I guess unless you're called counter-attacking, it's probably not going to be that useful.
It's not going to
And,
be what they're after.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, there's a lot of people on this post saying that fair enough, play to win, and that's what it's all about. But personally, I just don't think I could deal with.
Yeah,
The game is meant to be fun, and I find winning fun, but I find playing well more fun.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But it does raise the point of potentially some less popular formations still being affected this year with still a kind of interesting, attractive play style. Obviously, this guy didn't use that.
Admits that he's
But
not using it.
people seem to think that if you set these formations up the right way with the right players, right instructions, and right custom tactics, you can play quite an interesting style regardless of the formation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So I think that's pretty much it for the social this week.
Yeah, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll catch you again in about 15 seconds. And welcome back. Did you miss us? Probably not. It's that time again. Going to have a quick look at the team of the week. And after last week's bumper crop of high-rated informs, we've got another load of very nice-looking cards.
Yeah, it looks a really good one, actually.
At sort of the elite end, there's Gareth Bale and Aubameyang both going for in the region of $1 million or more on both consoles. You've also got Miralem Pjanic, Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino, all quite expensive and very attractive cards in very popular leagues. So those are all ones to bear in mind. But as usual, we're going to try and pick out a couple of the slightly cheaper and lower rated, but potentially no less effective informs to have a look at. Ben, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, the first player that I've noticed is Forsberg, one of 3 second informs this week. And potentially 4 if you count Giovinco, although that's a bit controversial because he's obviously had an SBC card instead. But basically, Forsberg is now a cam, his inform was a left mid, and he looks really, really strong. The only problem with him is we don't have his in-game stats. For some reason, they haven't appeared. But we can kind of guess from his left mid inform what his stats are going to be. And he's got really good dribbling. His physical is decent. He's kind of like around 70 strength. Yeah. He's also 5'10", I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And he's got, like, with Hunter, would have 90s pace and, like, 88 finishing, I reckon, on his inform. So he could be a really, really good false 9 because he's got, like, 85 passing on the card, 86 dribbling. And the kind of player where you can rely on him to hold the ball, but not just hold the ball. He'll, like, dribble round players. He'll take a long shot, and he's got decent stats for shooting as well.
Yeah, no, he looks like a really nice all-round attacking mid, or as Ben says, potentially a centre forward in a false 9, or with the right chem style, yeah, you could probably play him as a striker.
And the other good thing is that he links to Keita, who was an inform we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Navigator.
Yeah. And so the combination of the two could work really well. So you can have Forsberg in centre forward and Keita back at centre mid. The only thing is Keita's actually gone up in price. So anyone who bought some of the Keitas at the time, that was quite a good investment. And Forsberg himself is about 30k. But I would hope that he'd drop a bit.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, these informs have only been out for 24 hours, so they're or less than 24 hours at the time of recording. So I think
right now people are looking to the weekend league.
Yeah, weekend league is starting to boost prices a bit, and this would be looking across the Bundesliga. To be honest, there aren't many players like him who have that kind of physicality. He does have 75 physical on card and a bit of height and decent pace in a kind of central role.
And shall I move straight on to my other player? I think it's also a Bundesliga player.
Yeah.
We've got Vogt, who is a centre back. and originally a CDM, so it's quite a nice position change because, to be honest, the selection of German centre-backs isn't phenomenal in the Bundesliga.
Basically,
good, but
Hummels and Boateng, and other than that, they've all got something wrong with them. Either they're too slow or not good enough for defending.
Yeah, so I've been using Tar in a team that I was talking about later, and he's been really good, but he's just not quite there in terms of defending and consistency.
Yeah.
So the fact that I could bring in Vogt, who's quicker, has better passing and better dribbling and better defending, just kind of better across the board, is really good.
And he's 6'4".
And he's 6'4", so he's got AC short passing and long passing because he was a midfielder. And not only that, but he's got like decent ball control and dribbling, so 77 ball control, 73 dribbling on as standard. And then with anchor on him, just looks really phenomenal. 95 stand tackle, 99 strength, 84 interceptions, 86 sliding tackle, 88 marking, and then 93 aggression and 77 acceleration, 82 sprint speed.
Wow.
So really, really solid. I'm looking forward to using him. Well, actually, I have used him for a game. So you can have a mini informed impression here. He was pretty good.
Cool. Very mini. Very informed.
Yeah.
We like it. Okay, moving on to the players I'd like to talk about. I was keen to have a quick look at Giovinco. He's not a player that I've used, his non-informed, that is. And I've certainly not used his inform. But when I saw this card, one of the first things I thought about was the fact that he's one of the long-term SBC targets where you have to get a squad of players from every MLS club to get an 86 version of his card. This is an 85. And I was comparing their in-game stats, and the SBC card is about +2 on pretty much everything on top of the inform. And the inform has some very nice stats. So the SBC card is lovely, but it begs the question, what happens if he gets another inform? Because they can ignore him if he gets maybe a couple of goals or a couple of goals and an assist. But if he were to get a hat-trick or 4 goals or something, I mean, he's tearing up the MLS because he's a good player in his prime, playing with a lot of decent players in their prime and a lot of very good players who are a bit past it. So he's almost inevitably going to have more great games as the season goes on. So that'll put EA in quite a tricky
the season does
situation.
end soon.
True.
Or has it ended recently? Or is it
Are they into the playoff games?
Oh, that might be it,
I think that might be it. So maybe he's got limited chances to get another one.
Yeah.
But if he does, it presents a bit of a
quandary for EA.
Do
they upgrade the card?
They could upgrade the SBC card.
Because that would actually almost increase its value,
Yeah.
So people would be willing to pay more for the associated cards.
Because I mean, the Giovinco and Jonas SBC cards are available throughout the whole year. Those have no expiry on them to complete those challenges. So
either that, or I guess the prices go down a lot because everyone knows that there's an inform that they could buy for this price, so it's going to be less than that.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, this inform currently is sitting at about 60k, I think, slightly more, 76 on Xbox.
Well, that reminds me, sorry, Vogt. I picked him up for about 15k, and I imagine you'll be able to get him for that on Sunday evening. But at the moment, he's about 17.5.
Okay. So I imagine again that will probably fall because we're quite early on in this team of the week. But if you've got a second inform, I can't believe it'd be that much more expensive. MLS cards tend to, the kind of obscure silvers can be easily price fixed, but gold cards, with so many packs being opened because of FUT Champions this year, I feel like it's going to be hard. It would be hard for it to hold value of more than 100k.
Yeah.
And so I guess it would force people to think whether they want to invest potentially more than 100k and certainly a lot of time in completing all the MLS SBC challenges, or just go out and splash cash on a card that is almost exactly the same or potentially even better than the SBC card. So that's just something to think about. And aside from that, the card looks really, really nice, incredibly agile, excellent shot power, good finishing, good positioning, also notable quite high aggression, which might help to counteract the fact that he only has 52 strength and is 5'4". But if you've got an MLS team or an Italian team, definitely worth keeping an eye on him.
The Atomic Ant.
The Atomic Ant, indeed. And the other card I wanted to take a look at was someone potentially overlooked. I mean, he was in the reserves section of the team of the week, but he's quite a high-rated player, and it's Pedro from Chelsea, because he's got very nice all-rounded stats on the card without a chem style, 83 pace, 82 shooting, 83 passing, and 87 dribbling. He's also got 5-star weak foot, 4-star skills. I used him last year, I think, with his Chelsea card, and he was a bit disappointing. And his non-informed stats are pretty similar this year. But I imagine this inform could really give him the little boost that he would need just to become really quite an excellent player, particularly if you put the right chem style on him. And I mean, I know it's potentially slightly sweaty, but I think Hunter could really transform this card because you're looking at he hits 99 acceleration, 88 sprint speed, 96 finishing, 86 long shot, 86 shot power, 83 long shots. His dribbling stats in game without any boost are 87 agility, 84 balance, 88 ball control, 87 dribbling, and my favourite overlooked stat of reactions is at 85. So he'll be back on the ball quickly if there's a loose ball near him.
He's also got really strong passing, doesn't he?
And he's got excellent short passing of 89 on card and 84 crossing. So whether you want to play him, kind of getting him involved in short build-up play or having him as more a traditional winger, whipping the ball in, I think he could be a really excellent card.
And not the prices either. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing that I was quite surprised by when I saw this card. Apparently, it's currently going for about 44k on Xbox and 42 on PlayStation, which seems unbelievable for a Premier League winger. If you compare, I think Willian is quite similar to that already. And using a chem style, you can get this Pedro certainly to better stats.
And actually, I mean, this is an inform as well, of course, which means that it's going to be...
It's unlikely to lose value. Yeah.
And then on top of that, the fact it's a position change to the right side means it's quite unique.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the fact that actually right wing... I think we got a question about right wing BPL players, and actually there isn't the best selection.
Yeah. I mean, Mahrez is all right.
Yeah.
Mkhitaryan... It has been excellent whenever I've played against him, but not used him. And Willian, similar.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you're slightly lacking in options. There are a lot of sort of high 70s, very low 80s rated, very quick players.
Yeah, so if you're
kind of effective for counterattacks,
reluctant to spend big on and not in form at this stage, then it's really a good option, I think.
Yeah. I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on because I'm just quite surprised by how cheap he is.
Yeah. I think that wraps us up for Team of the Week, doesn't it?
Let's move swiftly on to our informed impressions for this week.
Yeah, we've got a bit of an interesting one because you were going to talk about having recently purchased SB Seed.
Having recently completed the squad build challenge for Mika Jensen, the Danish Player of the Year from the Norwegian League, again. But that made me think about a player that I've been using for the last couple of weeks in my FUT Champions squad, which is Martin Braithwaite, the informed version, the Danish striker in the Ligue 1 from France, who we picked out when he was in Team of the Week as one to potentially pick up and look at because he had incredibly nicely rounded stats, really good physicals, very quick, good dribbling. And I think what we didn't potentially highlight at the time was his finishing is actually quite poor on the card. He's only got 78 finishing. And so the first couple of games I used him, I was very surprised by that because I just hadn't checked it and I wasn't thinking. And he kept missing these chances. I was playing him through, he was putting it wide or playing it straight to the keeper. And I'd been kind of expecting this quite clinical finisher. And I just had him with basic chem style at that point. So I think I had maybe a +5 boost, but that would only put it on the low 80s. So after a handful of games, I got really frustrated. I nearly rage sold him. And then I checked the stats, realised the mistake I'd made and put Sniper on him, which gives him a +15 boost to his finishing, taking it well above 90. And it transformed him. He's really clinical. The dribbling boost is very, very useful actually as well because he's got the pace and he's got the strength and he's actually got very good passing for a striker as well. So he works fine like that. And I played maybe another 5 to 10 games with him in strike and he was excellent at getting in behind, very good at holding off defenders. He won a fair few headers as well. Again, just he's got good all-round physical stats. And with the sniper boost, as I said, he feels so nippy on the ball and much more clinical in front of goal. But then another thing to note with him is because of how I set up my team, it was in a 3-5-2, and I ended up actually swapping him out to the wing so I could play Heung-min Son, the SBC card, at strike. And he worked very, very well as a left midfielder. Partly, I think, because of his physical, that allows him to
dominate most left or right backs, can't you? With
exactly. He both offensively and defensively, his strength was a real boost. And I mean, I think I picked him up at basically his lowest point. I got him for maybe just 24k, something like that. Around that point, he's currently about 30. That rose a little this week with the Jensen squad build challenge because he's Danish, and I think people decided that they wanted Danish informs to try and fulfill 2 of the requirements for the squad build challenge. He definitely wasn't the best choice for doing it. You could do it with any inform, but that's how the FIFA market works. But he's still around the 30k mark. It's not much more than that on either console. Definitely one worth picking up. He links. He's got a very useful link to Christian Eriksen. That's how I'm linking him into my team. And
I used him in guest play, and when we played and can confirm that he feels really good on the ball. And he's really strong as well. So it's like a different kind of player. You don't often get small, strong players.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really good.
Yeah, so I really liked him. So Ben, who are you going to talk to us about?
So I've got my man Cristiano Ronaldo. We actually found out his first name was Alex after a bit of a check because I actually didn't know what it was. But Alex Ronaldo is the inform left back, and I think he's part of a team generally which has worked really well for me. I posted it on the Twitter. We've got a really strong midfield of, funny enough, Xabi Alonso, who doesn't feel too slow. Sanchez, as in the Portuguese Sanchez, plays for Bayern in the other CDM position. And the cam in front is Thiago. And out wide, Diego Jota. Sorry, up front, Diego Jota. Out wide, Rafa. Not the manager, obviously. We've got the Portuguese left midfielder who plays for Benfica. And then on the right, Quaresma. So it's quite a nice attack in terms of interplay. You've got skills, you've got good passing, you've got pace through Rafa. And Xabi is well compensated for by Sanchez, so the defensive midfield works quite nicely. We've got Grimaldo out on the left, and he has been a left back, and he's been really, really good. He's got H2 dribbling. I mean, we talked about his stats previous week, but I think to kind of summarise my thoughts on him are that you can't really do too much better. Put backbone on him. He's already got decent physical. His defence and passing are pretty good, but he's a real asset going forward. But he's also really, really solid, and I think definitely a better choice than someone like, I was thinking other Spanish players. You've got players like Gaia. He's definitely better than Gaia, and should not decrease in value. I think he's about 14k, 15k at the moment, maybe a bit less, depending if you can get him a good time. And I think just a really nice card, really well rounded. And actually, this week there's been another Benfica informer Argentinian centre back.
Yeah.
So that could be a nice little link if you want to do something. And yeah, I've been really pleased with him. I mean, you played a game with that team, didn't you?
Yeah, I played one game and no complaints with him. He seemed really solid. I mean, there's a cliche that like the best compliment you can pay to defenders is say you don't notice them in a game because they don't do anything wrong. But he also really does contribute going forwards. And something to note, though, we didn't take advantage of it in the one game I played. He does have 74 long shots and 80 shot power. There's if the ball falls to him from a corner or something,
and he's got like decent crossing as well. So he's the kind of player where you just feel I'm happy with that position. There's no upgrade I can make, and he's good, and he's the best in the league, and he's the best, one of the best for the nation apart from Alvaro. I'd say.
Yeah, cool.
So the player I'm going to move on to is Rafa. He's my Dynamite discard. You can get him for unbelievably cheap, literally discard price. He's phenomenally quick. I mean, 94 pace on the card if you put basic on him, and on top of that, he's got really, really strong in-game stats in terms of his kind of dribbling ability. He's got 85 ball control, 89 dribbling, 97 agility, 85 balance. And also along with that, he's got actually half decent stamina, 75, okay jumping. But what really stands out is that acceleration, dribbling, and then like weirdly strong vision and short passing, 81, 80, which for a guy who's got 72 passing on the card, somewhat surprising. And then really good attacking positioning, which is kind of everything you want in a winger. He's got okay finishing, decent shot power, which I just kind of find that he can just finish it because you can get him into a position where he's going to finish.
Yeah, you can get him into very high percentage chances. So like not having brilliant shooting stats is kind of compensated for.
Exactly. And I think he's got sort of speed dribbler trait. And the thing about him is that he really puts the fear of God into a defending player who's defending, because he's so nippy, you don't know where he's going to go. He can accelerate away from a centre-back so quickly. And he was really crucial to that run that I had, where I went 5 games unbeaten at the end of my FUT weekend league. And I think I even subbed him on at one point, knowing that this guy was slightly on the ropes and wouldn't be able to defend Rafa's pace.
Yeah.
So for a player that you can get so cheap, I've been really impressed. And I thought he was going to be the player that I'd want to look to replace quite soon. But actually, even if another kind of tastier looking inform came out in that position, I'd be tempted to stick with him. He's so important to the team, especially with his pace.
Yeah.
And because the team as a whole is not the quickest.
I guess there's a degree of sort of him being unfamiliar to your opponents.
That's very
kind
true,
of people. If you come up against Martial or a front three of Martial, Musa, and Mane or something, the 3 M's, you know it's going to be a horrible game. But you kind of know exactly what to expect from those players, and you know how to position or try to defend against them. Whereas with Rafa, people will probably not have any idea what his stats are like going into the game.
And whether he has skills. Or
what skill moves he's got.
Which he does have 4-star and 4-star weak foot.
Even maybe what foot he uses.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think from that point of view, using that's like a kind of hidden benefit of using more obscure players.
Definitely. And it's really nice because he's obviously got this pace, direct style. And then on the other side, you've got Quaresma, who's more of a skillful player with a long shot on him. So I think the contrast works quite nicely, and as you were saying, players don't really know what to expect if you've just been busting a couple of skills on the right side, and then on the left you've got Rafa
bombing it down the
wing. And actually sometimes I swap them because often having a right-footed, quicker player is good on that side. If it's their strong foot, they can just whip it in, whereas Quaresma can cut in quite nicely. Yeah, that summarises sort of that team and those 2 players who've been really, really good for me. So I'd really recommend picking those guys up.
A lovely little left-sided combo.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention is my B team that I went with is also in the same formation. So that's a 4-2-3-1 brackets 2, so the wide 4-2-3-1. And that actually has really allowed me to kind of hone my abilities in that formation.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bit of a tip for playing Weekend League. If you're going to rotate 2 teams, I think actually having 2 teams in the same formation is really good, and similar instructions and things like that.
Yeah.
Similar types of players really helps to kind of so you understand where players are going to be and things.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good point generally. Kind of if you're playing a lot of games, if you're having to completely switch up your mentality and play style every 2 games when you rotate teams, that's going to really count against you, I think. And there's definitely an argument for not getting bogged down in the same style because it can get repetitive and you can get stuck. But I think that's just an argument against playing more than maybe 10 games of FIFA without taking a break, or at the very most. So I think I definitely did that over this weekend. I eventually ended up with 2 3-5-2 teams, which is something I didn't think I'd ever say.
That's
sort of from FIFA 12 onwards.
Yeah, I think it was so popular in FIFA 12, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But since then, it's not been a popular formation at all. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up that kind of player review side of things.
And I think that brings us to the end for this episode as a whole. Thanks very much for listening. And as always, hit us up on Twitter if you've got any questions, comments, feedback. We're keen to hear all of it.
So it's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from him.
Bye-bye. I know words. I have the best words.